morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. Calvin is on the board. Greg Bach with me in studio. Just a reminder, every Wednesday, the new mom at 10:33 joins the show to give us an
Yay!
update on little Frankie Lou. I was going to see her yesterday, and then Kristen had a real busy day with other people stopping in. So
Yeah.
this coming weekend is going to be my Francis weekend.
All right.
I'm very excited.
I'm,
Also very excited about our next guest. And actually, this was a listener who brought this organization to our attention. Harry Pulliam is the vice president of the Sustain Rural Wisconsin Network, and he is joining us now on the phone. Good morning, Harry.
How you doing?
Good, thank you. How about yourself?
I think I'm okay, thanks. I think I have a warm spot someplace.
Well, that's good. Harry, tell us about Sustain Rural Wisconsin. And again, it was a listener who brought your organization to our attention and said, you need to talk to these people. So what is it that you do?
Well, Sustain Rural Wisconsin Network has been around for almost 10 years. We're a fairly loose knit organization or coalition, if you will, of citizen groups around the state who are concerned with water quality and the adverse effects of industrial agriculture, industrial farming activities on public health and water quality.
So when you talk about the effect, are you talking about these CAFOs, these large animal operations?
We're talking, I think the term is typically called CAFOs, but you can pronounce it however you want to. A lot of folks don't even use the acronym. They just say factory farms. Sometimes they say industrial livestock operations. That's pretty much what we're talking about. That's the primary culprit in this situation.
Well, and for surrounding communities, I mean, how many animals are we talking about at some of these operations?
Well, just by state law, the typical CAFO, if you will, is about 750 dairy cows. They call it 1,000 animal units. If you're talking about hogs, it's like 2,500 hogs or 2,500 animal units. And with chickens, it can be several thousand. So.
And the biggest issue is what we do with the waste of all these animals, correct?
Exactly, that's the primary issue.
And what is the current?
Some of these
go ahead, Harry.
So some of these operations produce millions and millions of gallons of waste, and it is waste every year. There's an outfit called Pinnacle Dairy outside of Broadhead, Wisconsin, Greene County, that produces 94 million gallons of manure every year from 5,800 cows sited on 127 acres of essentially wetlands, been tiled for years beside an already impaired stream. And they spread that manure over about 7,000 acres throughout about 3 counties.
Wow. That is really a lot to wrap your brain around.
It certainly is. It's hard to conceptualize that amount of manure.
Well, and that's not even. There's an article that I found from WPR. There was a proposal in 2019. A developer known as Cumberland LLC proposed an operation with 26,000 pigs.
Yeah. Matter of fact, that's still in the works. We've Sustain Rural Wisconsin Network and its affiliate groups have been successful for 3 years now in staving off that installation. It's currently under review. The permit was once denied because they didn't have. Well, let's say they have to have a certain number of acres to spread their manure on. Usually, it's in contract. They don't own that land. They contract with farmers who take it as fertilizer. And in so many cases, these operations say on paper that they have so many acres, but when you go back to the people whose land they're supposed to be spreading on, those people say, well, we never signed any paperwork. So, so it's been sleight of hand, but we've been able to stave it off for a while. There are several communities, I'd say 5, 6 communities in northwestern Ohio and Polk Burnett County, where this Polk and Burnett counties, where this one operation was planned on being sited, who have developed operations ordinances, not to say no, you can't come, but if you come, you have to behave, and this is how you need to behave.
If you're
And
If you're
yeah,
just joining us, Harry Pulliam is our guest. He is the vice president of Sustain Rural Wisconsin Network, and they really focus on trying to keep our water clean and keep people engaged. Harry, I can't even imagine for people who live around these large farms. What do you hear from those folks?
well, like I said, we've been hearing stories for years over in Kewaunee County. That's probably the poster child for the effects of industrial agriculture. They have far more animals than people in Kewaunee County, and there are people over there who were on the county board who had manure coming out of their faucets, brown water coming out of their
Oh,
faucets.
wow.
Really?
Really.
I,
And I've seen pictures. I can send you pictures.
can I just believe you? I don't have to.
Well, you can certainly believe me.
Yeah.
We would.
Yeah, I don't need to see pictures.
But yeah, we all this stuff is backed up by data. It's not like it's scare tactics. We're trying to let the general public know, and generally, folks in urban areas, they don't think about it because if you have a problem with a well in an urban area, I mean everybody goes crazy. They shut down the well. They move people's water supplies to other places. They pipe in water from someplace else. But the folks in rural areas, if they have a problem with their well, for instance, in Emerald, Wisconsin, which is in St. Croix County, right across the Emerald Town Hall is right across the street from Emerald Sky Dairy, which is a major CAFO. Their nitrates in their water, which are allowable at 10 parts per million, are now over 50. And folks around the state are having that kind of problem every day.
Well, and it's certainly dairy is a critically important industry in this state, and I don't think anybody wants us to lose more dairy farms. But when you're talking about numbers like this one that was proposed for these pigs in Polk and Burnett counties, 26,000 animals, how can you even care for this number of animals in the way that's required for them to be healthy?
Well, that's another question. It's something that we don't necessarily concern ourselves, although we're concerned about it. We don't necessarily work on animal rights or animal welfare questions, but there are so many other things that we need to address. But that certainly is a concern.
Well, if someone is listening and they would like to get involved, Harry, what could they do?
What I would suggest folks do is go to our website, which is sustainruralwisconsin.org, and take a look. We have a nice website with lots of information. We have, I like to direct people to this area of the website called Reality Check. And that's a series of about 31 slides that you can scroll through that explain, they have pictures, and they explain at the top what the industry calls something and what it actually is.
What examples can you share with us, Harry?
Oh, gee whiz, trying to think off the top of my head. Well, concentrate. You'll have a picture of as far as the eye can see, you see hogs, and they'll say concentrated animal feeding operation. What does that tell you? But at the very bottom of the picture, it'll say, thousands of hogs in confinement in situations where they can't even turn around.
I am looking at the website right now, that section, and holy cow.
Or holy pig.
Holy pig. Holy oinkers.
Yeah, you're so true. And then there are what we found, and why this organization got off the ground, I think, is that so often small communities are beset with these installations planning to come in, and they don't have a clue how to deal with it. They're concerned, they're worried, they've read about other situations in other parts of the state, but they don't have a frame of reference on how to address it. What's the first thing I need to do to protect myself and my family? And so they can go to the website. There are a whole series of suggestions on ways what you can begin to do, who you can contact, and how you can try to protect your family.
Boy, and we need to figure out something else to do with manure.
Well, yeah, we do. Historically, you were talking about numbers of farms. We lose about a farmer and a half a day in
A
Wisconsin.
day still.
Yeah, still. And what's happening is the industry is being encouraged by the federal government actually to concentrate, to
Get
bigger and bigger farms and more confinement. Historically, I mean, you see these pictures of red barns and the cows on pasture and so forth, and some folks still do that. I was at a farm yesterday in Greene County where they have 40 or 50 cows, and that's how they do it. And the cows are healthier, they last longer. They're milking cows that are 12 years old, whereas in a CAFO they're lucky if they live to 3 or 4.
seriously.
Wow. I mean, honestly, by looking at the pictures in the reality check project, that doesn't surprise me.
No, not really. Yeah, it's really so bad. But you know, so we're getting fewer and fewer farms, but we're not losing numbers of cattle. And what we're hollowing out rural communities, because you know generally one of these big operations comes in and says, "Gee whiz, we're gonna employ all sorts of people. We're gonna spend all our money locally. It'll be a boon to your economy." Well, actually, they buy all their inputs from someplace else, some other large outfit.
Harry, hang on for 1 second. We got to go to a break. We just got a couple of minutes in the break. If you can stick with us, I'd really appreciate it for another segment.
Not a problem.
Excellent. You are listening to As Goes Wisconsin. Stay with us. Harry Pulliam will be back with us when we come back. You're listening on the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. 20 minutes past 11 o'clock. Jane Matnair in for Kristen Bry, Calvin on the board, Greg Bach with me in studio, and joining us on the phone, he is the Vice President of Sustain Rural Wisconsin Network. Harry Pulliam is here talking about trying to keep our water clean, and good heavens, what do we do? We're drowning in manure. Harry, some of the numbers that you gave when we were talking at the beginning of the other segment, just about one operation that's had about 1,700 cattle and yet had almost 100 million gallons of manure from those 1,700 cattle on an annual basis. That just blows my mind.
Well, in actuality, they have 5,800 cattle on 127 acres.
Okay, 5,800.
5,800 milking 5,800 cattle on 127 acres. Place looks like a small city.
I bet. And as you said before we came up to the break, these companies come in and make all of these promises, which unfortunately just don't seem to come to fruition.
Well, you look around Wisconsin, and we used to have very thriving small communities, 400 or 500 people, 1,000 people, 1,200 people. And some of them are just ghost towns now. There might be a gas station, there might be a dollar store, but they're not nearly what they used to be. I live outside New Glarus, Wisconsin. My wife and I farm organically. And New Glarus back in the 50s had 3 car dealerships, 3 or 4 implement dealers, 2 clothing stores, 3 grocery stores, with about the same population it has now. But in 1960s, they decided, wow, everything's going to the devil here. We can't make any money. So they went to the tourist route, and they Swissfied everything. And now we see 500,000 people come through the town every year. But not a lot of communities have that situation.
Sure.
And you see what's happening. So the big operations buy all their equipment. They import labor from, in many cases, from other countries. And they don't buy stuff locally. So it's just a sap on not only on the environment, but on the community that they're supposedly supposed to be supporting.
Well, and this pressure to constantly get bigger just seems counterintuitive to me. It does.
Well, it's kind of counterintuitive to a lot of people. Again, when you think of farming, you think the red barn with a few cows out in the pasture, and people's happy, and the house is well painted, and that's not the case anymore in most cases. The push to get bigger. There's a big ag lobby, and folks in Congress and in the administration, in many cases, believe what they have to say about the direction of the industry, and it's hollowing out rural communities.
Harry Pulliam is our guest. He is the vice president of the Sustain Rural Wisconsin Network. I really encourage you to go to their website, sustainruralwisconsin.org. Go to the CAFO toolkit, and then go down to the Reality Check Project. Greg had mentioned this. There is just some horrifying pictures on there, Harry.
Well, I think that's it's intentional because people get a glossy view. There's a narrative out there that technology is going to benefit us, and we can overcome all the problems related to industrial agricultural technology, and that's simply not true.
844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY if you want to check in. The money in politics is making our lives so much worse in so many different ways.
Yeah.
When you talk about these lobbying groups, Harry, and this push to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, it's terrifying. And yet we're losing our little farmers. We're gaining these massive operations, and yet at the same time, as you mentioned, Harry, we're hollowing out these little communities.
Yep.
Well, that's so true. And now the industry has, I call it the industry, has taken a different tack. Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce is an industry group, as you well know.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a fairly newly active litigation group, they call it. So basically, right now they're in the process of suing the DNR on the behalf of the Wisconsin Dairy Alliance, which is a group of CAFOs, a very small group, actually, I think about 6, some of them major polluters already. And the Wisconsin Dairy Alliance, Wisconsin Farm Bureau, by the way, suing the DNR to tell them that you don't have the right to require permits for these operations. And just recently, as I mentioned earlier in the earlier segment, that there's a small group of small towns in northwestern Wisconsin and Polk and Burnett counties have instituted operations ordinances to say, no, we're not saying you can't come here, but you have to do things like submit plans for preventing infectious diseases, air pollution and odor, managing waste and handling dead animals, traffic and property value impact studies, surety for cleanup and decommissioning of an outfit if it happens to go out of business, and a permit fee. And Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, on behalf of some folks locally who don't even own farms, are suing these towns, saying that their operations ordinances are contrary to state law. They are what's called SLAP suits. They're efforts to keep small communities from protecting themselves.
Yep. We talked about those before. Yeah.
Well, and we've got just a couple of minutes left before we have to go to break, Harry. Again, if we don't have clean water to drink and we're going to get poisoned from the water that's contaminated with manure, you have no one to sell your milk to.
That's one way of looking at it.
Brilliant, Jane. Brilliant.
Again, if you're going to poison your own customers, this seems like a bad business model.
Well, so often, well, I don't want to wax poetic here or philosophical, but so often in big business, the concern for the general public is not paramount.
Harry
Well, a
Pulliam
fair
is
amount
the vice president of the Sustain Rural Wisconsin Network. I highly encourage you to check out their website. We will post it along with the show notes at the end of the show. Harry, I thank you so very much for joining us. We will have to have you back and keep us in the loop. Anything we
I
should know
appreciate
about.
that.
Thank you so
You
very
betcha. Take
much.
care of yourself.
You too.
Have a
Take
Thank you,
care.
sir.
Stay with us. I see you. We got a couple people hanging on the line with some questions about farms. If you can stay with us through the break, that would be great. We are coming back right after the news. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. Jane Matt there in for Kristen Bry. Calvin is on the board. Greg Bach with me in studio. We just talked to Harry Pulliam from the Sustain Rural Wisconsin Network, talking about these CAFOs, these large animal operations, and the issues with manure and trying to get rid of it. We have a couple callers who've been hanging on through the break. Thank you so much. 844-967-2789. Keith from Middleton. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning. Man, there's so much in this conversation to go into. I don't even know where to start. I'm going to say just one real quick thing because it popped in my head. During the break there, the news segment was talking about the DNR being sued for the wolves by the farmers. And it occurs to me that we have a huge number of single issue voters, especially in the farm community. And I was hoping Harry could answer this question for me, but he's gone. If we're going to allow our legislatures, such as Derek Van Orden from District 3, to be elected on issues like the wolves or abortion, things like that, and yet all he does is promote the large CAFOs that everyone's complaining about right now through the Farm Bill and his lack of work on the Farm Bill, we're going to get what we deserve. There's so many parts of this, so many nuances to politics that people are just caught up in these single issues of, oh, we can't have abortion, we can't have gay rights, we can't have voting rights, things like this that we get caught up in and we forget about the issues that actually pertain to us, such as CAFOs, that are so much more dangerous than the wolves are. And I don't know where to go with that because I'd love to have Harry's response as a farmer to my comment about that. Do you see where I'm going? And I have a couple more questions if I can.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. And I don't disagree with you. It is ultimately people voting against their own best interests. And I do think that is why particularly one political party likes to focus on those hot button cultural issues instead of saying, and here's how our policies really don't make your life better. It's like, look over here at this scary thing that's coming for you.
It's sleight of hand.
It's about confusing people with these hot button culture issues so they don't look more closely at the policies that they're implementing that don't work in their favor.
So my other point was going to go into, we talk about the CAFOs and so forth. And as consumers, now I've been an executive chef in clubs and resorts, private clubs and resorts, restaurants all over this country for over 40 years. Just recently moved back to Wisconsin from out west. And one of my goals in every place where I was to get a relationship with local farmers and try to buy all the products that I possibly could.
Sure.
Wisconsin, especially Madison, has a huge farmers market community. If we as consumers were to put aside for a second paying an extra 25 to 30 cents or even $1 a pound more for products by going to the farmers market instead of going to Walmart or the dollar store or even Woodman's, I know they're a local company, I love them, but we have to make that investment in ourselves in order to make it justifiable for the farmers to stay in business. A local small farmer has overhead that is much higher than those large CAFOs per animal.
Sure.
That's just reality. So as consumers, we have to make the decision, you know what, I'll pay the extra to know that I'm putting Harry's family through college by supporting his business instead of putting the CEO from Walmart who knows where the hell he lives through college.
Bentonville, Arkansas.
Right. I mean, there's just so many parts of this conversation. we have local restaurants in the Madison area claiming, oh, we're using local products. But yet you go in there in January and they're saying they have local produce. I'm sorry. There's no local produce in Wisconsin in January unless you've got a huge greenhouse.
Right.
And you
And
can't continue to lie to our consumers and get away with it with impunity.
and
You
the problem.
have-
Oh, sorry. Go on, man.
Go ahead. You're good. You're good.
I was going to say the problem is the moment we try to step back and say, let's try to do these things to, support our local farmers, eat fresher, healthier foods from farmers markets, people lose their minds. And then they go to the easy thing of saying, well, I love my freedom and I want to be able to do what I want. And if I want to eat stuff from a CAFO, I'll eat stuff from a CAFO. I don't care. And it's about never being able to frame the conversation in a way that says what we could do will be advantageous to farmers. It'll hit you a little bit more in the pocketbook, but not thousands of dollars a year unless you have a huge family. But you'll be helping the farmers, you're helping revenue in the state, and you're helping yourself.
But again, I think we've gotten away from doing anything for the greater good. It's all about me.
Yeah.
It's all about me, and as you said, I'm gonna eat food from a CAFO, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
It's freedom. That's where we are.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part. It's so unfortunate that I'm not even talking about like as a team, like arm in arm. I'm just saying, hey, pick up some leafy greens, pick up some tomatoes, pick up some cucumbers. Start there,
Right.
and then go, and expand outwards. But like you can do that. That's easy. That's not hard.
Keith, thank you so much for your call. We really appreciate it. 844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. Texter from the 262 says, high nitrates in groundwater come not only from manure, but from the huge amounts of nitrogen fertilizers applied to poor soil, especially in the Central Sands area of Wisconsin. I know. It's just, and another texter from the 608, many of the family farms you see while driving around Wisconsin are not family farms. Big ag companies buy the farm, rent out the house to make it look like it's still a family farm.
And some of those family farms too are family farms owned by family under contract by
Big companies.
And
Yeah.
we see that a lot in the chicken industry. Those big chicken companies, they come to your farm and say, hey, you want to do this? Then they throw a contract down and says, all right, you got to pay this, this, and this. And if you don't do this, this, and this, we'll sue you and you will have nothing. So, yeah, I mean, there has to be, if only there was an elected official who said, farmers, I've got your back. Possibly from the 3rd district.
Well, you have to be in the country.
Fair point. I'm sorry.
It's nice if you're in the district in which you represent.
That's Jane. That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
844-967-2789. Ross from Soldiers Grove has been hanging on. Thank you for your patience, Ross. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys, and kudos to this conversation, because in Wisconsin and everywhere, this is really huge, and especially in this modern world where there's more and more people on the planet, and how do you feed them, and how do you feed them reasonably, not too expensively. So I'm a retired healthcare person. I'm not a farmer, but I've always tried to buy organic and grass-fed meat. And a year ago, I took a class. I audited a class down at the university in Madison, and it was a grassland class. And it was really interesting because they talked about farming specifically. I thought it was going to be more about prairies, and it really had a big emphasis on farming. And what they were saying is that grass-fed beef, grass-fed dairy it actually can save money for the farmer. So because they're not paying for heavy equipment, they're not paying for fertilizer and seeds every year, that money that they save from that obviously can go, and when they sell their products as organic or just grass-fed, and when we as customers buy that, they can make a living. And so, and from what I understood from the class is that these farmers actually enjoy farming again. They're not just driving a tractor and hauling cow manure from point A to point B, but they're moving cattle from one field to another, and it feels like farming again. And these people they're in Wisconsin. They're probably all across the country, and they're doing it. they're doing it right now. Um, the other benefit is that grass-fed dairy and beef allows, let's just say, grassland birds, which are threatened right now, to exist. So the benefits are to the environment, both in less pollution and less nitrogen for fertilizer, and it allows these endangered grassland birds to coexist much better. And why are grassland birds endangered right now? Because of monoculture farming. And so even though I think the one point I was going to disagree a little bit, Jane, with I don't think people are purposely, giving the middle finger to the environmentalists. I really think that as humans, we're driven by price. But if people can afford it, if they're willing to just pay a couple pennies more, buy grass-fed, buy organic, let these farmers grow. Once there's more of them, the products will get cheaper, and it'll just be a more sustainable way of living.
You make really good points, Ross. You
Yeah.
absolutely do. And I'm telling you, after having looked at some of these pictures at the Sustain Rural Wisconsin Network, I am going to find a free range chicken place, because I'm telling you, we don't realize how these animals are treated in some of these facilities.
We do,
Well,
but
we don't want to.
we know that we know that animals are treated poorly in some things. We want to believe that where we buy our food isn't where it's happening, when really it's happening
Everywhere.
all over. So
I mean, one of these pictures is essentially of a bunch of chickens. Their space is as big as an iPad.
Yeah.
And that's where they spend all of their lives.
Yep. It's yeah. We just did a big grocery thing yesterday.
Where did you shop?
I will not tell you. It definitely didn't rhyme with Marget.
Okay, you lost me on that
It
one.
was Target.
Oh, okay. Ross,
And Kroger's.
Ross, thank you so much for calling. We really appreciate it. We got time for one more call before we go up against the break. Tyler in New Berlin. Good morning, Tyler. Thanks for checking in with us.
Good morning. You got to watch out for that grass fed too, because in wintertime, it's kind of hard to graze cattle in Wisconsin. So some of it can be kind of lucrative as it's labeled. So that's all I got to say about it. A lot of times that grass fed isn't exactly what it's supposed to be.
What it's being marketed as?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What about how do you feel about free range? How do you feel about free range chickens, Tyler?
I do, but it's not sustainable around here. You can't free raise chickens in the middle of winter. You know what I mean?
Well, we now we need to talk to a chicken farmer.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I'm going to have to find a chicken farmer, Tyler.
Yeah, there's got to be ways. There got to be ways of taking care of that. I mean, yeah. So
thank you so much for checking in. 844-967-2789, 844-96-party. It's a lot to digest.
I don't like you right now.
Bad pun?
There's no such thing as a bad pun. There's only a pun. Puns it's alone. That's the either by beholder. Sometimes it's a pun.
It's a pun.
It was actually, I don't know if it was a pun. It was a play on words.
Fine.
There you go.
Okay.
There.
How are you feeling about food now?
I honestly, like reading the website that I went right to the reality check. I'm kind of like, oh, was being vegan a really good idea?
I bet it seems like it now.
But there are, and please don't at me. There are arguments to be made about, the way that vegetables are grown and the pesticides and the cost of water and all those things. So like, there's truly like, you can find something and everyone will be like, well, guess what? Shake your finger.
Yeah, that's true too.
But yeah, maybe it's a time to have a conversation with Bridget and say, all right, let's sit down and make better food purchase choices.
I think that's a conversation worth having, Greg Bach. All right, we got one more break. I hope you will stay with us. We will be right back. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. 10 minutes before high noon and the kickoff of the Todd Alba Show. Jane Natnair in for Kristen Bry. Calvin on the board, and Greg Bach is here as well. And you can always check in with us at 844-967-2789, 844-96-party. We were talking really the last hour just about farming in Wisconsin and trying to deal with these large animal feeding operations. And gosh, what do we do with all that manure? And
Gosh darn it.
there's a lot of it. And we were talking about free range chickens and other options to benefit our farmers and benefit our environment at the same time. And Angie from Monroe checking in on the text line from the 608. I'm working right now, so I can't call in, but I raise free range chickens in Wisconsin. There are a lot of us here in Wisconsin. I actually shovel a path for my chickens. I'm not sure everyone does that, but mine are spoiled.
See, that's what when absolutely no disrespect to Tyler, what he was saying, but like I felt like I know people who have chickens. I've seen chickens. If they're raising chickens, then there has to be a plan for winter.
Well, and chickens don't eat grass.
No, they eat chicken feed.
Right. So if you shovel a path for them, I would assume then you put the feed down for them, and that's where they eat.
Mm-hmm. And maybe there's like warming things so they freeze to death.
Right.
See?
Okay.
Solutions.
See?
Solutions.
Well,
this show is all about solutions, people. Calvin's birthday and solutions.
There we go. That's the new title of the show.
Yeah.
While Kristen is gone, she's going to love that.
Yeah.
Moving on to trick or treat. A lot of places are tomorrow night
I am
on the actual day of Halloween.
So dumb.
Why is it dumb?
My trick or treat in Kenosha, my neighborhood, is Tuesday, tomorrow, the 31st.
Yes.
From 4 to 7. What time did your parents get home from work when you were growing up?
My father was a mortician. He worked at home.
Okay, let's pretend you were a normal person. What time does your 5:30, 6
dinner
o'clock?
time. It's
Yeah,
dinner
so 5:30. So that means 5:30 you get home. Are you going to take your kids right out immediately? No, they're going to get them all ready. You got to get them going. They're not going to get out till 5:45, maybe 6 o'clock if you don't want to do dinner. And then you get 1 hour of trick or treating.
Isn't that enough?
No, it's the experience for the kids. They get to walk around. They get to do things. To me, like, I don't know when it changed. This is very weird for me because when I worked in Racine, trick or treat was always the Sunday closest to the 31st. So wherever it was, and then it was from 4 to 7, and that was it. It's perfect.
You're done.
You're done. You get 3 hours. You get a little bit of dark. It's a little bit dark. It's not too dark. But then you can have a day. Like, you don't, but to me, Tuesday, you're just rushing the parents home and no one's having fun.
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
I would just think that an hour of trick or treating is more than enough.
I mean, it just depends on
how old you are,
where you live, how many houses participate. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. You want the kids to have a good time. I remember when I was a kid, we went like 10 blocks around the house. Like, we were all over the neighborhood. We had a full jack-o'-lantern
full of candy.
So I just feel like the kids are getting the short end of the stick here. They're getting the fuzzy end of this lollipop. I'm telling you that much.
It varies. Again, it varies from community to community. The city of Milwaukee had theirs yesterday.
See, there you go.
But our neighborhood had it on Friday night.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, like, I would totally do that if my neighborhood, like, 3 blocks and said, like, all right, we're going to do our trick or treat on Sunday. That's totally cool. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. It feels like you're putting the parents in an awkward position. The kids don't get as much as they'd like out of it, because also they're going to come home and the kids are going to be like, let's go. It's like, well, I got to put down my stuff, get on my jacket or change,
right,
or, gobble down like a, something, it's, I don't know. It feels like it's very inconvenient for the parents and the children.
Do you have strong feelings about trick-or-treating
I
hours?
do.
844-967-2789. 844-96-PARTY. A very passionate Greg Bach.
Yeah.
Anti-trick-or-treating on Halloween.
No, I'm not anti against Halloween. Anti this method.
The 4 to 7.
The 4 to 7 on the day. Like, it's of a weekday. I think I am pro Sundays or Saturdays, whatever's closest to the 31st.
To the day.
Don't paint me as some villain.
You're not a villain. I just had no idea.
I want everyone to have
this so seriously.
I like the trick or treating for the kids. They look cute in the costumes.
They absolutely do. Unfortunately, at least in Waukesha tomorrow, no one's going to be able to see their costumes because it's going to be snowing and cold.
Oofta.
Yeah. The forecast for tomorrow: snow showers likely, mainly before 4. Well, I guess that's good. Cloudy, then gradually becoming mostly sunny. The high near 36. Breezy. 20-mile-an-hour winds in the afternoon. Wind gusts could hit as high as 30. Chance of precipitation, 70%. New accumulation around an inch.
Can I give a suggestion what you could do instead if you can't go out with the kids?
Sure.
If you get your bag of candy, just take some candies, hide them around the house.
That's a great idea.
Little candy hunt.
That is a wonderful idea.
And take pictures, take videos, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's gonna be. I just want the kids to have a good time, and that's sucky that it's going to be so gosh darn
So cold. So
cold.
I know. No one's going to see your princess dress.
Oh,
Just dress up in a big parka and say you're an Alaskan native.
I'm a princess in a parka. I'm
Princess
Parka.
Princess parka. All right. Real quickly, Karina, we only got a couple of minutes. Thank you for calling. What do you want to say?
Agreed with Greg. It should be last Sunday or Saturday, and it proves the weather is better. The time is there. You can go far away. Absolutely agree with Greg. Last day before the Halloween.
All right.
Thank you.
The closest weekday, the closest weekend day to Halloween should be the day.
Thanks,
all right.
Karina.
Thank you so much, Karina. Really appreciate it.
Starting a revolution.
Stay close for Todd Alba. He is coming up next. I hope you will join us tomorrow starting at 10 o'clock. Dan Schaefer will be here at 10:33 to recombobulate, and you as well. Thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Harry Pulliam. Thank you to all of you for calling and or texting.
Happy birthday, Calvin.
Happy birthday, Calvin. Stay with us. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.